As a kid, my parents were always on my ass about reading instead of playing video games all day. And I should have, because I have intense reading problems. But, for all they know, I could have been playing video games and reading. And reading an incredible novel with incredible characters and incredible storylines. Well, I wasn't. I was probably playing Nintendogs or Mario Kart and shitting on myself. But I could have been, and that's what matters. I believe that video games can be a great supplement to reading, and some video games can tell better stories than a novel could in 6 volumes. And what better system to play these novels on than the good old DS? I mean, the thing fucking looks like a book. And you could tell developers knew this because there were a lot of dialogue-heavy games to come out for the DS. And I've kind of run out of things to say, so this is the top 5 text-based games for the DS. Keep in mind, to be a text-based game, most of the game has to consist of reading dialogue. So no RPGs. They may have a lot of text, but all you really do is grind. Number 5, Miles Edgeworth Investigations. So, I put this on this list because it's pretty far off from the rest of the Phoenix Wright series. I mean, Phoenix Wright doesn't even show up in the game, but that doesn't excuse the fact that this game is really, really good. The music's amazing, the graphics are amazing, the plot is amazing. It's pretty standard Phoenix Wright amazing, but I may be talking about Phoenix Wright later in this list, so I'd rather not say a lot. Point is, if you're into Phoenix Wright and you haven't played this, get it, because it's worth your time, and it's really fun, and it's text-based, so it's on this list. Number 4, Professor Layton and the Unwound Future. So unless you've been living under a video game rock for the last half a decade, you've probably heard of the Layton series. You know, it's that series with the guy with the top hat that sells puzzles and has a British accent, and is super anime looking. Don't be fooled about how silly these games may seem, because in reality, these games are amazing. And definitely the best one in the series is the 3rd game in the original trilogy, Professor Layton and the Unwound Future. This game is that classic 3rd game formula where they finally got it perfectly, where the first 2 were establishing how to make the puzzles and how to make the plot interesting, and the 3rd game just nails it like a nail. Bad expressions aside, this game has everything going for it. It's got really, really good backstory to characters, really, really fun puzzles, and really, really well animated cutscenes. And did I not mention that the plot twists are ridiculous and so freaking awesome? So if you haven't played the Layton series, or you've played the Layton series but not this game specifically for whatever reason, do yourself a favor and play it. These games are so good and so worth your time. Number 3, Ghost Trick. So before I gush about this, let me just talk about the premise of the game, because that's what sold me on the game. You pretty much play as a ghost and go back in time and avert people's deaths by moving objects around and manipulating them to, like, maybe make someone miss their shot with a gun or something. I know I may not make it sound interesting, but for some reason, that premise just sold me immediately. And the fact that it was also made by the same people who made the Phoenix Wright series. So, as I said a second ago, he plays a ghost named Sissel, and you have to figure out his backstory by keeping people alive who may know something. The plot is really cool, and the characters are really original, and actually have a lot of backstory. Oh, and I can not talk about this game without mentioning the amazing art direction. Not only are the characters really well designed and the portrait art really well designed, but the animation is like a mixture of like 2D and 3D with this really smooth animation with pre-rendered graphics. I don't know. You can probably see by these clips, but it looks so good. And I feel like this game kind of got overlooked a little. I didn't really hear about it when it came out, and I was pretty into the Phoenix Wright series when this game came out. So I was like kind of weird. Like I remember seeing it and then looking it up and then being like, wow, why haven't I heard about this game? And of course the plot is amazing with tons of backstory, storylines, twists, blah blah blah. So if you haven't played this game, I totally recommend playing it. Even if you're not into the whole text-based games, the gameplay is really fun too. So go play it. You have no reason not to. Number 2, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. This is probably a game some of you probably haven't heard of. It was a little underground when it came out. It still kinda is. So I always kinda knew this game was a thing. I always knew it existed because of my obsession with the Phoenix Wright series, but I really never got around to playing it. For some reason, I never really looked into it, and I never really had an interest to. And one day I was in the mood for a text-based game, so I tried it, and I'm so glad I did. This game exceeded my expectations by a long shot. The game has an amazing story, an amazing atmosphere, and amazing characters. The game is a mixture of unsettling and creepy, but intense and heartwarming at times. It's just a mix of emotions and does it so well. The gameplay is essentially those fun escape-the-room flash games that everyone used to play, which on paper kind of sounds like it'd get boring, but it actually stays pretty interesting. Another thing that may turn off someone from the game is the fact that you have to replay it multiple times to get different endings, but for some reason, this works really well. Trust me, I'm the first person that would never want to do this, but you kind of want to replay the game when you're done, because some things get explained and some things don't. So in the end, you're like, I really want to figure out what happens. But don't worry, you can skip text you've already seen anyway, so it makes it go by faster. I'm not lying when I say that 999 is definitely one of the best video game plots I have ever experienced. For some reason, it just captures you. It's really, really cool. And in the end, if you're still itching for more, there's a sequel that I haven't really gotten around to playing much of. And my number 1 favorite text-based DS game is... Phoenix Wright Trials and Tribulations. See? I told you Phoenix Wright would be on the list again. This is the 3rd Phoenix Wright game in the series, and it's definitely the best. The Phoenix Wright series is something pretty special. It tells such a good story and has such amazing characters and has hellishly good music. No game can really top it in those categories. If you haven't heard of Phoenix Wright, which means you probably live at the bottom of the ocean, under 10 feet of rocks, it's about a defense attorney. And that's kind of it. It's a defense attorney who only takes on murder cases. It may seem kind of like a mellow premise, but it's not very interesting, but everything in Phoenix Wright is done so well that it's so worth playing. Most of the time Phoenix Wright games just get looked at as good games, but I see them way more as like almost perfect games, actually. And the 3rd one is definitely the best out of the bunch. Every case is just so interesting and keeps you hooked. And like the Professor Layton game, this game benefits from the 3 game rule, so it learned from its mistakes, and it does everything perfectly. And that's a pretty good word to describe this game, perfectly. Everything's just kinda done perfectly. It's got perfect characters, a perfect plot, and almost perfect music. I think that's a good way to end it. Trials and Tribulations is near perfect. So I hope you enjoyed that top 5. I know I haven't really played all of the text-based DS games, so if you have any that you liked, I know like Hotel Dusk and like Time Hollow or something. So if you have any you like, put in the comments what you liked and share them, because I'm really itching to play more of them actually. And this is just kind of the end card. So watch my other one if you haven't. I tried to make this one a little less scripted and a little bit more balanced. I hope I did a better job. And that's kind of it. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to still try to make more of these and do these more often.